Hi, welcome to Retiring Well. Folks, we got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to, talk about risk. When is it a good time to turn it on and when is it a good time to turn it off? I just got asked a question here not long ago. Larry, I know you do investment management, all you financial advisors do, but what other services do you provide? Well, let's talk about that today. I'm going to tell you a story about two brothers, two similar portfolios with two drastically different results and why that happened. And then finally, I want to talk about the income bucket approach. There's several ways to approach income when you get into retirement and how you need to take income. This is one approach that you might find valuable learning about, so stay tuned.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
Hi, listen, in this segment, I want to talk to you about risk. When is it a good time to kind of maybe dial that up, and when is it maybe a good time to dial that down, right? Well, number one, you want to understand one thing. It's going to be one of three things. Am I trying to get wealthy? All right. If I'm trying to get wealthy, then maybe I'm going to want to have a little bit more risk, maybe being in those stocks. If I'm trying to stay wealthy, all right, I already have my wealth, I want to stay there. Maybe I'm looking at things like hedges, maybe hard assets, right? What if I'm maybe just trying to generate an income, a steady income that I can count on? Maybe now I'm looking at fixed income or dividends, right? So understanding what your objective or goal is and what you're trying to accomplish is going to determine, how much risk or what instruments you're going to put in place accordingly. Number two, what's my timeline? Am I 5 years or more out? I mean, as a general rule, that's kind of what you want to use. If I'm 5 years or more out from when I need my money, maybe I can take on a little bit more risk. If I'm 5 years or less, I'm going to maybe want to be dialing that down a little bit, right? So the timeline is very important. Three, what's my risk tolerance? What is that amount that I could lose that's going to keep me up at night? Now, a lot of people like to go to a percentage. But, for example, let's say I have $500,000 and I say to somebody, I'm probably okay, losing 10%. What is that as a dollar amount? That's $50,000. That looks like a whole different thing, right? When I'm talk about maybe losing $50,000 and being okay with it, right? So, equating that, understanding that is very important. So understanding what my objective is, am I trying to get wealthy, stay wealthy, or generate an income? What's my timeline? What's my risk tolerance? And then another one, basically, do I want to probably get my personal finances in order? Before I'm talking about investing, maybe I better make sure I don't have any debt that I need to be dealing with first. Now, as a general rule, if I have debt that's, interest rate of 6% or more, I'm probably wanting to get that out of the way before I'm investing, right? If I have low interest, maybe not so much, but knowing that is very, very important. So folks, looking at in the general sense, if I'm somebody that's trying to stay wealthy, I'm going to need my income, less than 5 years. I've got a low tolerance for risk, and I've got maybe some debt out there that's got 6% or more, interest. That I would dare say I'm way over here on risk off, right? But if I'm trying to get wealthy, I've got greater than 5 years in which to grow that. I've got a high risk tolerance, and I've got no debt. I'm going to probably be totally risk on, right? So, or maybe I'm somebody in between. So understanding that, having that discussion and knowing where you're at is very important. If you're somebody that, could use some help in that regard, then give us a call. At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we specialize in retirement planning. Folks, we put a show together every week that we talk about a number of financial topics that are critical in your retirement planning, from tax planning, estate planning, income planning, long-term care, health care planning, and investment management. If you missed the show, then you just visit our website, go to the media tab, and you'll see the latest show. Hi, in this segment, I want to talk to you about the services that we provide. You know, I had somebody approach me not long ago. They were like, Larry, I understand you probably do investment management, but what other things do you do? Well, I thought I'd take this opportunity to maybe kind of outline those so you kind of have a better feel. First of all, we obviously do investment management, right? We're trying to look at your goals and objectives, all right? We're looking at your risk tolerance, you know, what's your timeline? And we're trying to take those items and say, okay, based on that, what would be a good strategy? What financial instruments best meet those goals and objectives? So that is a very, very important part of what we do. And then educating you on the pros and cons of those various investments, okay? The other services we provide is tax planning. Right? You know, you've got all these qualified accounts, these IRAs, 401ks, there's money, this money has never been taxed by the government. Every dollar you pull out is taxed. You've got a partner in that account. What's your IRA exit strategy to get that partner out of those accounts? How can you buy them out as cheaply as possible? Well, that's going to have to be in our tax planning. And then, of course, just trying to minimize taxes year after year would be very helpful as well, right? Another service we provide is estate planning. You know, we come alongside estate planning attorneys, we bring them in and we sit down with you and them and we say, you know, we try to formulate an estate plan together. You know, what we want is we want all your assets to know where to go when you die. A lot of clients will come in and, you know, is a trust necessary? Well, let's talk about that. You know, Larry, I've heard about these ladybird deeds. Where do they come into play? Well, let's talk about that, right? But let's form a plan. Let's make sure that that gets done. Another service we provide is income planning. All right, you know, most people are trying to figure out how now do I take income from this portfolio that I have that I've been saving all these years for. Well, let's develop a plan to do that. You know, when do I take Social Security? How does that play a part in this? I've got a small pension. Does that have a role? Right? Let's take a look at that. Let's form a plan and let's make sure that you're not going to run out of money in retirement. And then let's make sure that we continue to monitor that plan. We may have a plan today, but then going forward, let's make sure we stay close to that and we don't lose any ground. Another service we provide is in the healthcare arena. Long-term care, is it something I need or don't need? What about Medicare? When you get the age of 65 and you get that, you're going to need supplemental insurance. Let's talk about the pros and cons and different routes you can go with that, right? If I'm not yet 65 and I still need health insurance because I've retired, what about the marketplace insurance? How do I obtain that? You know, what kind of income do I have to qualify maybe for the subsidies? Folks, these are all services we provide because we work with retirees all the time. We know all the myriad of issues that they're dealing with. So folks, if this is somebody like you're already maybe in retirement and not getting those services, or somebody close to retirement that's, you know, wanting some of these questions answered, then certainly give us a call.
Well, thank you for that, Larry. A lot of great information there, especially on risk. You know, risk is very important, and we want to make sure we understand your risk tolerance so that we match your portfolio and your investments to that precisely. But another thing, and I think what really sets us apart is all these other services that we offer. And I know, Art, you've had an experience with that recently.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. You know, and it's exciting to have you on the show here. You know, you're over manning our Gaylord offices and Petoskey offices, and so everybody out there, you know, if you're in those areas here, maybe you've already seen Nick or would help to plan you retire well. But you're right. You know, here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we're more than just investments. You know, we take great pride as financial advisors being versed in many different areas and bringing in some additional experts when needed. You know, it makes me think of a recent client that come into us from watching the television show. They had called and they had just entered retirement and they had never talked to a financial advisor before, and they just were relying on this 401k. You know, and oftentimes I've said on the show, your 401k statement is not a retirement plan. There's much more involvement needed there. But they come in, sat down, we reviewed things and talked about all the different various. You know, where is income going to come from? You know, in retirement, how is that paycheck going to come? You know, there's Social Security. These people were fortunate enough to still have a pension, and then they had a 401k that they had saved for many years that was a nice amount that they wanted to take some additional income from. So how are we going to invest that to generate that income? Taxes. None of us really like to talk about taxes out there, right? We all know we have to pay our fair share, but what does that look like over the life of your Retirement, potentially 20 to 30 years. What are taxes going to look like? Estate planning. Goodness, you know, we don't want to leave people behind in a big mess, so let's talk about that. Healthcare, Medicare, all these different aspects. So here at Centennial Wealth, we believe in bringing in experts, working together, and developing a plan so you can plan to retire well. So if you're out there watching this show right now and you're entering retirement or maybe leading up to that soon, newly retired, give us a call at the number on the screen. We'd love to sit down, have a free, no obligations visit with you so you can plan to retire well.
Are you nearing retirement or in retirement? Have you had your portfolio just looked at or have a second opinion on that portfolio recently? Centennial Wealth is a full service advisory firm, and we have multiple locations in northern Michigan. I'm in the Gaylord office primarily. The office is right downtown Gaylord. Also up in the Petoskey office as well. That office is right off of 31. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to sit down and chat, and it's a free, no obligation consultation. So just call the number on the screen.
Listen, in this segment, I want to have a little bit of fun with you, okay? I'm going to take two brothers. They're going to retire at the same age, all right? And they're going to start off with the same amount of money. Let's say $500,000. They're going to take 5% out each month, for each year, I should say, for income, all right? So that'd be about $25,000 per year. All right. Now I'm going to add they're going to be invested exactly the same to the penny. All right, and I'll add this: they're going to be in this. They're going to have the same amount of tax-qualified accounts, meaning the same mix of IRA, Roth IRA, maybe non-retirement money. All right. Again, invested exactly the same way in all those accounts, taking income from the same account. All right. They got. Do you see any difference here? All right. Now, at the end of 10 years, the one brother, he has just a little over $1.3 million. Not bad, right? Starts off with $500,000. Just about triples his money while he was taking income from it each year. Not bad. The second brother, all right, at the end of 10 years, taking this same amount out each year, all right, starting off with the same amount, invested exactly the same way, at the end of 10 years, his account is worth just a little over $200,000. Folks, what happened? What happened? How did the one brother just about triple his money and the other one lost better than half its value during that period of time? What happened? Now I'm going to give you a moment to just kind of think about that, right? Remember, they were invested exactly the same way, had the same amount of tax-qualified accounts, taking income from the exact same accounts, and let's add this, maybe they're taken exactly in the same day. What happened? Folks, this is what happened. The only difference between those two portfolios, or those two brothers, was when they retired. The first brother retired in 1990. All right, and guess what he got for 10 years? Nothing but an up market. The second brother retired in 2000, and look what he got. He got 911, right? Market dropped to half its value from 2000 to 2002. And then again in 2008, lost half its value. The only difference between those two brothers or those two portfolios was simply when they retired. So I pose this back to you. If you're somebody that's near retirement and in retirement, you know, how willing are you to gamble what you have in the hopes that you might get the market that the one brother got, but what if you got the market that the other brother got? I encourage you, if that's a concern for you because you're in that situation, near retirement or in retirement, then give us a call, because that's not something you want to be gambling with. You want to be very careful with. So give us a call.
My name is David Mikowski. I'm chairman of Veterans in Crisis. This is our tournament. This is our third annual tournament. I'm a former combat Marine, and I wanted to pay it forward.
Colonel Art Forster, U.S. Air Force retired. What a pleasure it is to be out here in Lakenheath today to play for such a worthy cause, Veterans in Crisis.
It's an honor to be here as a Marine Corps veteran. I served from 1996 to 2001 as a Marine Embassy Guard.
I'm a fellow veteran myself, 6 years Army, 5 years Navy.
Veterans in Crisis, we are literally impacting vets at the grassroots, one by one, right here in northern Michigan. Thank you to Centennial for sponsoring this whole and being a proud sponsor of Veterans in Crisis. We appreciate your commitment.
I'm one of the founding members of Veterans in Crisis. It is an entirely volunteer organization, but I wanted to get involved in something worthwhile, and I can't think of anything more worthwhile than serving our veterans.
I'm Bob Baldwin. I'm from Lake Leelanau, Michigan. I served in the U.S. Army from 67 to 69, did a tour of duty in Vietnam, 1968, 1969 with the 9th Infantry Division. I want to thank the organization that put this outing together. I know it's the 3rd year, and congratulations to well-deserved turnout, and hope all the proceeds will help some of our fellow veterans.
You know, I myself am a veteran. I served in the Army National Guard in the early 80s, but I have a great deal of respect for those that were in the service and actually had to fight.
There's a tsunami on the horizon with veterans that are in crisis, and it starts with veterans who have been now involved in a 20-year war. And preceding that, we had a 17-year war with Vietnam. So now we're up on the precipice of a lot of those veterans that are retired, coming home, wanting to settle in, and they have issues. They have either PTSD or they're Agent Orange or some other kind of malady.
I heard a statistic not long ago that said that there was more veterans committing suicide from coming from Afghanistan than those that actually fought and died in Afghanistan. That's sad. To me, that just breaks my heart. You know, we need to be taking care of our veterans.
98% of the proceeds that'll go directly to a veteran.
We have responded as quickly as 24 hours to help a veteran with a hot water heater or dental work or legal work even.
We heard about Veterans in Crisis that was serving local veterans, and we said, you know what, this is right in our own backyard. Let's sponsor them this year. So we're very proud to do that.
I want to say thank you to everybody that's played in this tournament today, the giving of their time, our sponsors, Lock and Heath, who we are going to have a long-term contract with, and certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Centennial Wealth. They're our title sponsor, and we've got a multi-year agreement with them, and I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity to live in such a community like this with so many giving individuals and people who want to give back. It's a very humbling thing.
What can Retirement Analyzer do for you? Retirement Analyzer is a software tool that can help you prepare today for your financial future. You've worked hard to save for your retirement, but as you near your retirement, you may have concerns. Have I positioned my retirement savings wisely? Have I saved enough for retirement, and will my savings last throughout my lifetime? What impact could inflation have on my future expenses? What if I suffer a long-term illness? Will I have enough money to cover my medical care expenses and still be able to meet my other financial obligations? Could changes in the income tax rates disrupt my retirement strategy? There's no need to be in the dark as you prepare for your retirement. Retirement Analyzer can help you find answers to all these questions and more. The first step is providing us with information on your financial assets, the type and current value of those assets, as well as your sources of income. Then, we work with you to identify your expected expenses in retirement. This will include a discussion of the lifestyle you envision in retirement, travel, a summer residence, whatever you dream your retirement will be. We'll input the information you provide us into the Retirement Analyzer, and in a very short time we'll have reports that show us the percentage of assets currently in high-risk vehicles as well as the percent in lower-risk products. Retirement Analyzer enables us to project your income from year to year in your retirement and see how long your retirement savings may last. As we change the conditions of the report, delaying your retirement date, including costs for long-term care, adjusting the expected tax rate, or adjusting your retirement strategies, we can see how changes in these variables may impact your income in retirement and the longevity of your retirement savings. Let the Retirement Analyzer help you test drive your retirement strategy today, because the time to discover the bumps in the road is not once your trip through retirement has begun. Contact our office today to schedule an appointment for your Retirement Analyzer review.
Well, what a great couple episodes there for folks nearing retirement or in retirement. You know, Larry talked about the two different portfolios with two vastly different results and what that maybe looks like, and maybe that spoke to you a little bit. But the one that caught my attention, and I think Nick here has an interesting story he was talking about, but Retirement Analyzer, you know, it makes me think out there, you know, the carpenters and the mechanics of the world all have various tools they use to help accomplish a job or a task. Us as financial advisors, we may have various tools as well to help accomplish those tasks, and this is one of those, right, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when people come into the office, one of the main questions is, well, can I retire? Especially in what's going on in the world today. Can I retire now? I don't really want to work another couple of years. So, but they want to see what retirement looks like. And Retirement Analyzer really allows us to paint that picture for them, give them that 10,000-foot view where they can see, okay, my income is this, my expenses are that. What does that look like when I'm 85 years old, and so forth? And it's just so visual for the clients, and it really helps them understand where they're at.
Absolutely, Nick. You know, it's always amazes me. I think many people out there plan for their annual family vacation more than they plan for their retirement. You know, retirement could be 20 to 30 years of unemployment. Think of it that way. And it's amazing how many people haven't looked at those numbers and what that looks like. How is inflation going to play a role? How, you know, a lot of people in retirement have either unexpected expenses pop up or even planned expenses. Maybe there's a new car purchase or a second home purchase. What are all these various aspects going to look like? Now, obviously, there's hopefully some presumed growth along the way. And Nick, you can put that sort of stuff in, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, we can put in any kind of variable and run so many different scenarios so you can see, well, what does it look like if this happens or if that happens, and so forth.
Right, and I think, you know, even for me as an advisor looking at those various situations, I think it gives people some decent comfort to know maybe what that may look like for them as they're trying to plan, as they're trying to get a visual image of what retirement may look like from them on a financial front. You know, the one thing though that we do have to consider is a budget, and so those are things that we look at to enter in as we're going through that. So if this is something you would like to take a look at, or you have other questions about your potential retirement or current retirement, we'd love to talk to you. Give us a call at the number on the screen. And here, coming up soon, we're going to be talking about our income bucket approach and maybe what that looks like and how you could benefit from us on here on Retiring Well.
If you're retired or soon to be retired, let us help you plan to retire well. Centennial Wealth Advisory specializes in retirement planning and has offices in Traverse City, Cadillac, Petoskey, and Gaylord. We'll never pressure anyone to become a client. Our goal is to inform and educate. Simply schedule a meeting at one of our Northern Michigan office locations for a free, no-obligation retirement review.
Hi, welcome back. Listen, in this segment of Chalk Talk, I want to show you how you might structure a portfolio to get the best results, especially if you're taking income, okay, or you're in retirement. First of all, I want you to take your total savings. Okay, this is everything you have, from IRA money, 401k money, maybe even, you know, that non-retirement money, okay? I want you to take all of that, and then I want you to, number one, segment enough aside for emergencies, okay? That would be your savings account. I've heard some people say, well, that needs to be 3 months income. Others say 6 months, maybe even a year. Doesn't matter. Is whatever amount you feel comfortable with having set aside for any kind of an emergency that might come around. Now, how that money is going to be invested, it's going to be highly liquid, it's going to be highly conservative, right? Because I may need that with very short notice. The second thing I want you to do is then set aside money and put it in what we call the income bucket, okay? When you're working and you're getting a paycheck every week, maybe every other week, okay, your income needs are being met. And then you've got your savings doing what it's supposed to do, right? Hopefully growing. Well, like in this bucket, to the bucket you need to create to give yourself a steady amount of income that's going to replace that paycheck, especially when you get to retirement. All right? Now, once I've set aside money for that, then I've got what I call the conservative growth bucket. Okay, this is money that you want to set aside for all those intermediate term needs, okay? Maybe it's a car repair, maybe it's a car replacement, all right? Maybe it's a home improvements, home repair, Maybe it's those extra vacations we want to take, those ones that might be on our bucket list, right? Maybe it's some of those healthcare costs we want to set aside for. Whatever it might be, that's going to be invested in a certain way as well, because I might need it in your term, or I don't want it having a lot of volatility, right? Now, if I've set aside for my emergencies, I've set aside for my income, and maybe anything that might come up in interim, then everything else can pretty much go in that growth bucket. All right, that's traditionally how we probably had things invested while we were working. Okay, that can have a little bit of volatility associated with it because I don't need it for income, I don't need it for emergencies, okay, but I do want it hopefully to grow. Okay, I want it to grow because as this bucket, I use this bucket, I want some of this maybe to replace and get back into that bucket. So folks, if you use what we call the bucket approach and you structure it accordingly, the kind of results you're going to have are going to be much, much better in retirement. If this is something you want to see for yourself, then I encourage you, give us a call. We'd be glad to run through this with you and how it might be appropriate for you.
All right, what a great conversation Larry just had there on this bucketing approach. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, and so often we spend a lot of time talking about this with new folks coming in and then refreshing it as time goes along. But I think one of the best ways to kind of talk about this and maybe relate it back for you to understand is Nick and I were doing a visit with some folks together in our Gaylord office, and these folks were down from the Upper Peninsula. They had been watching the show for several years, and they were just getting ready to go into retirement, like so many of you maybe out there are. And Nick, it was really kind of interesting to hear their story about where they were.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had the same advisor for the last couple years or so, at least 5 or 6 maybe, and they were always invested in the same funds. And they're currently working, but they're thinking about retirement, and they had a bunch of rental properties, and they were thinking about selling those as well. And when they brought this to their current advisor, he didn't really recommend any changes for their current portfolio, and we all know a lot of things change in retirement, especially that portfolio. So the way we approach investing and so forth, it was dramatically different from the growth and accumulation phase.
Absolutely, Nick. You know, one of the things I found most interesting about their situation is they had no plan of where the income was going to come from. They were taking a job that they'd had for many years that was producing great income for them. These folks were considering selling some rental properties because they were just at a point they wanted to travel more and didn't want to deal with it, which was another income source for them. And so they were taking away their 2 primary income sources and had no income plan at all of where this money was going to come from. Who was going to generate the paycheck? So when we walked through the bucketing approach with them, they found it very interesting because their current advisor wasn't talking about this. It was just assumed this portfolio that they had for many years that was going to magically all of a sudden just start generating income for them. And you know, maybe that would be the case in some good years, but what would that look like if time wasn't as good, and so on and so forth, and how would that affect them long term with their success? So we walked through various scenarios with them, Nick and I did in the Gaylord office, and showed them what that could look like with them. So if this is you out there, and you're wondering maybe where your income is from, you're heading into retirement, early in retirement, and wondering what that looks like, give us a call at the number on the screen. We'd love to sit down and talk to you, free, no obligations visit, so we can help you plan to retire well. We look forward to seeing you next week on Retiring Well.